Hey guys, Dave here. Welcome to the Centurions Review, the punk rock band of war game review institutions. This is Man, Myth, and Magic, a role-playing game of man's greatest adventures from Yaquinto. What's interesting about this role-playing game is most role-playing games are medieval fantasy related, whereas this one is ancient fantasy. So you play a Roman in this, or well, not necessarily a Roman. You're in Rome to start the game, and you start as a gladiator, and later on you get to, the game kind of teaches you it as you go along, and later on you get to add things like your race and character class and so forth. The magic is not overpowered in this, or at least it doesn't appear to be like in some of the fantasy role-playing games. So let's take a look through it. Here's book one. You read this first. Starts basically with an intro to role-playing in case you never heard of it. And then it talks about how to roll up your character. You got strength, speed, skill, endurance, intelligence, and courage, and then how to name it. And then goes over gladiator training and unarmed combat rules. And then here's a little adventure that's in the middle of the book to teach players the game. So the dungeon master will read all this to you, basically saying you have to move through this neighborhood in Rome, which is called the Warren, and it's filled with like brigands and thieves and murderers and stuff. Very dangerous place. So you have to make your way from here to here. But each of these numbers here is encounters that you'll make if you move through there. So no matter which way you take, you're going to hit at least 2 encounters here on the way. And each building is lettered, and the building, or excuse me, the book says who the inhabitants are of the building and what their fighting stats are, and if it's a store, what you can buy there and stuff. So that's kind of cool. So the reason you're going through the Warren is because you want to get to the gladiator school so you can get some training in. And when you first get here, normally you could just go straight through Rome to get there, but since Caesar is having some parade of his military forces, that should take about 2 hours to go by. You're having to take a shortcut, or not a shortcut, but go through the Warren to get there instead. Normally you wouldn't go through a bad neighborhood like this. Alright, so here it just explains the different encounters. Like here you'll meet a goldsmith, all sorts of stuff. Here's a grain store. Here's the encounters, the ones that where fighting will occur. This one you would battle the Black Brutus and his gang of 7. Here you fight a savage dog and so forth. And here's a former gladiator you have to fight. And so when you finally make it through, here's the training labyrinth, and it goes over the rules, how to train and stuff. And this is where you learn some more about the game. So eventually, after you get some training, you'll choose a gladiator class, and then you go into this labyrinth here, which is another little adventure. And here it's talking about Roman games, which are basically gladiator games, everything you need to know about those. And here's one of the character sheets. You can photocopy it. And here's player aid information. Let's go to book 2. These are the advanced rules. Here you'll choose your nationalities, or nationality, I meant. And you can choose your character class, which could be a warrior, a witch doctor, a wise man, a merchant, a druid, apothecary, warrior, barbarian, leprechaun even. That's an interesting one. Harper, warrior, all sorts of stuff. Your race helps determine what character classes you can choose. So if you're like, your race is Hebrew, you can't choose leprechaun as a character class. And here's where it explains in more detail about the different character classes. And here's inheritance. This is how much money you start the game with. And now it's going over weapons and armor. Good to know. And here's a table which shows how much they cost and how much damage the weapons do. Armor in this game doesn't stop you from being hit, but what it does is when you do get hit, if you have armor on, you take less damage. And like a helmet will do that for you, but only if they're aiming for your head. Like if they swing a sword at your head, the helmet will come into play, otherwise it won't. Alright, here it's going more into different types of equipment, like blankets, bottles, all sorts of rations, something that you definitely need. And here it's going over the advanced fighting rules. And here's more about the different races and character classes. It says if they have magical abilities and so forth. The magical abilities in this are much, like I mentioned before, are much tamer than in most fantasy role-playing games, but they are still interesting. You even have an Egyptian one here. Visigoths, Orientals, and here's option magic. Going into magic there, I'll show you the spells in a minute. You get more. You can have more optional characteristics like dexterity, drinking characteristic, and so forth. There's actually a characteristic modifier table, which is right here. Here you get your weight, which is determined basically by your height. And here it's going over bows and shooting at running targets and stuff. Here it's going over poisons. In the ancient days, poison was a real thing. I mean, people actually did get intentionally poisoned and stuff. Here's value of treasures. And here's the different spells. Like here's Gold Sniffer, causes any gold within 50 yards of you to say, here I am. Lie Detector. Well, this one creates a poltergeist. There's Freeze. This is a good one. Causes any single individual within 50 feet to become motionless and remain that way until the end of the segment. And you can curse, and there's a bunch of other stuff too. And here it's talking about the spells in more detail. Here's some of the psychic abilities. Alright, let's go to book 3. This is the adventure book. First adventure in it just uses the basic rules. And now here's advanced scenarios. These will use the advanced rules. Here you even go up against a dinosaur. I just flipped through this. Yeah, so there's quite a significant number of adventures there. Here's some of the other stuff that's included. Some of these maps here. These haven't been pulled out yet, but yeah, like here's the Warren. And here's the Training Labyrinth and so forth. And these are character sheets. There's quite a few of them. On one side is a player aid information. On the other side is a character sheet. And here Yaquinto is trying to sell you some of their other games. They were a good war game manufacturer, Yaquinto. I think this is the only role-playing game they had, but don't quote me on that. I just have never seen another. Alright, these are just advertisements. Thanks for watching. Just wanted to show you guys this unique role-playing game. Have a good evening.